Absolutely. Gentlemen, it's time we talk about the truth. Raw, unfiltered, and uncomfortable. And that truth is this: porn is destroying men, not in some abstract, moralistic, old school preacher kind of way, but in a real, measurable, brutal sense. It's killing your drive, hijacking your brain, stealing your purpose, and stripping you of the power and potential you were born with. Let's not sugarcoat it. Every time you open that private browser tab and indulge in a few minutes or hours of pixelated pleasure, you're not just watching a video. You're rewiring your brain. You're programming yourself to pursue instant gratification instead of real-world achievement. Dopamine, the powerful chemical that motivates you to chase success, to build a legacy, to push through pain and hardship, is being hijacked, flooded, drained. And the worst part, you don't even notice it happening. You think it's harmless. You tell yourself, it's better than cheating. I'm just unwinding. Everyone does it. But what you don't see is how it's weakening you, weakening your discipline, weakening your self-respect, weakening your ability to show up like a real man in the world. Porn doesn't just steal your time, it steals your edge. The edge that makes you relentless, that makes you magnetic, that makes you a king in your own life instead of a spectator jerking off to someone else's fantasy. And let's talk about relationships. You want connection, intimacy, fire. But how can you even connect with a real woman who's flawed, human, alive, when your mind is hooked on edited, fantasy-fueled, algorithm-optimized content designed to exploit your biology? Porn teaches you to consume, not connect. It teaches you to take, not give, to expect perfection instead of building passion through patience and presence. Real intimacy requires effort, vulnerability, strength. Porn requires nothing but a few clicks and a screen. And here's the truth most guys don't want to admit. Porn is the enemy of purpose. You can't dominate in life when you're a slave to your urges. You can't chase greatness when you're chasing a hit of dopamine every night. The empire you want to build, the body you want to create, the business, the bank account, the respect, you'll trade all of that every time you choose to escape instead of evolve. I'm not saying this from some high horse. I'm saying this because I've seen what happens when men decide to take their power back. When they delete the apps, shut down the tabs, and stop wasting their energy on fiction. They come back to life. Their eyes get sharper, their voice gets stronger, their confidence returns. They remember what it feels like to win again. This world needs strong men, focused men, disciplined men, not numbed out zombies with calloused hearts and wasted potential. The world doesn't owe you anything, but it will respond to the man who shows up clear, hungry, and ready to conquer. That man can't afford to be chained to a habit that keeps him small. So stop lying to yourself. Porn isn't just a bad habit, it's a trap. It's a prison, it's a silent killer of masculine greatness, and every time you choose to break free, you reclaim a piece of your fire. You sharpen your sword, you become the man you were born to be. You see, nobody talks about what happens after the screen goes black and the pleasure fades. That sinking feeling, that guilt, that hollow pit in your stomach, that's your soul telling you something's off. That's your inner warrior knocking on the door, asking why you keep trading your potential for a few seconds of false satisfaction. You weren't built for this. You weren't wired to be passive, to live life through a screen, to waste your energy on a fantasy world that gives nothing back. You were built to hunt, to build, to conquer, to love fiercely and lead powerfully. Porn robs you of that quietly, consistently, completely. And make no mistake, this is a battle, a war, really. Not just against porn, but against a culture that glorifies it, normalizes it, shoves it down your throat at every turn. Look around. It's everywhere. Music videos, ads, social media, even video games. It's not just content, it's conditioning. They want you weak, distracted, soft. Because weak men are easy to control. A man who can't control his urges is a man who can't control anything. His emotions, his focus, his finances, his relationships, his destiny. You know what's even more dangerous than addiction itself? The tolerance that builds. You don't just stay in one place. What used to excite you gets boring, so you go darker, weirder, more extreme, and without realizing it, you're spiraling. It's the same pattern you see in drug addicts. Because porn is a drug. It operates on the same neurological pathways as heroin, as cocaine, and that should scare you because you're not just dealing with lust, you're dealing with chains. Let's be real. How many dreams have died because a man couldn't stop watching porn? How many relationships have been ruined not by physical infidelity, but by digital betrayal? How many men could have started businesses, mastered a skill, built empires, but chose comfort instead? They'll never know what they're capable of because they were too busy escaping life instead of facing it. And here's the brutal irony. The very thing you're using to feel like a man is making you less of one. Porn doesn't make you powerful, it makes you passive. It teaches you that pleasure is the goal, not purpose. That receiving is better than creating. That watching is better than doing. That the screen matters more than the struggle. It's killing your hunger, it's numbing your ambition, it's turning kings into cowards. You want to know why you feel stuck? Why you can't stay focused? Why you start things and never finish them? Why your confidence crashes in social situations? Why you're always tired, distracted, restless? It's not just your phone. It's not just the world. It's the daily decision to give away your fire. Every time you choose porn, you're choosing the easy path, the path that leads nowhere. Because nothing great has ever come from comfort. And porn is ultimate comfort. It costs nothing and gives even less. The moment you cut it off, really cut it off, you'll feel it, the return of energy, of clarity. You'll look people in the eyes again. Your voice will deepen, not just in pitch, but in power. You'll walk differently. You'll feel grounded, dangerous in the best way, because you're no longer leaking your power, you're holding it, building it, using it for something real. I've seen men go from depressed, anxious shells to leaders, creators, providers, all by eliminating this one habit. That's not magic, it's momentum. When you stop pouring your energy into fantasy, you start building reality. You hit the gym harder, you crush your goals faster, you become more attractive, not because of a six-pack or a nice watch, but because you carry yourself like a man who's in control. You walk into a room and people can feel it, that edge, that intensity, that clarity. That's what happens when you're not a slave to your impulses anymore. And if you think this is just about abstaining, you're missing the point. This is about identity, about who you are. Every time you say no to porn, you're not just resisting a temptation, you're reinforcing your mission. You're telling your mind and your body, we're here to build, not to bow. We're here to lead, not to linger. We're here to dominate, not to drift. This is about ownership, extreme ownership. You can't outsource your discipline. You can't delegate your masculinity. No one is coming to save you. The government won't save you. Your friends won't save you. Your parents won't save you. Only you can save yourself. And that starts with taking back control of your mind. Porn may feel like a small issue, but it's the root of so many larger ones. You fix this and everything else starts to shift. Your standards rise, your habits change, your future opens up. Now I know there are guys hearing this and thinking, it's not that bad, I can handle it. But if you were in control, you wouldn't need to defend it. If you were free, you wouldn't keep going back to it. If it was harmless, you wouldn't feel the shame. Deep down, you know, you feel it every time you look in the mirror and wonder where the fire went. Every time you hit snooze instead of hitting the ground running. Every time you try to focus, but your brain's fogged up by weeks, months, or even years of screen-fed stimulation. You feel the drag, the dullness. That's the tax you pay for a few moments of fake fulfillment. You weren't born to be a consumer, you were born to be a creator. But you can't create when your energy is drained, when your focus is shattered, when your heart is closed off. That's what porn does. It makes you a spectator in your own life, watching other people perform while you waste away behind a screen. And the scariest part? You get used to it. The world respects action. The world moves for men who move. And when you stop giving your time and attention to porn, you get that momentum back. You start building, training, leading. You become the kind of man who doesn't need validation from a screen because he earns respect in the real world, from the way he walks, talks, works, loves, lives. And don't think this is about being perfect. This is about being aware, being intentional. You will mess up, you will feel tempted, you will slip. That's life. But the difference between a weak man and a strong one is what happens next. Do you hide in shame and go deeper into the addiction? Or do you stand back up, learn from it, and double down on your mission? The truth is, quitting porn isn't the end goal, it's the beginning of becoming who you were meant to be, the beginning of reclaiming your edge, the beginning of rising above the noise and standing for something in a world that stands for nothing. You weren't meant to crawl through life addicted, ashamed, and asleep. You were meant to walk tall, speak truth, and act with fire. Every man has to make this decision at some point. Stay soft, distracted, addicted, and controlled, or rise up, break the chains, and go all in on his purpose. That's the fork in the road. And you don't need permission to choose the higher path. You just need the courage to face the truth. Not tomorrow, not next month, now. Because the man you could be is waiting, and he's not behind a screen. He's on the other side of that decision. And here's the truth most men avoid their entire lives. No one is coming to save you from this. Not your girlfriend, not your therapist, not your favorite podcast. This fight is yours, and most won't win it. Most will stay plugged in, numbing out, justifying it every step of the way. They'll blame stress, loneliness, boredom, whatever, but those are just excuses dressed up to sound like reasons. The deeper reason, the one you don't want to face, is fear. Fear of being fully alive, fear of what it means to step into responsibility, fear of confronting your emptiness head on without a screen to hide behind. Porn is not just a habit, it's a form of hiding. And the man who hides from life will never lead one. You think it's just 10 minutes of pleasure, but it's not 10 minutes. It's the recovery time, the mental fog, the anxiety, the shame, the withdrawal. It's the hours you lose over weeks, months, years. It's the confidence that erodes bit by bit until you stop believing in your own power, until you second guess your ideas, your instincts, your very identity. And you can try to mask that with distractions, scrolling, gaming, junk food, even workaholism. But that gnawing truth, you are not who you could be, and you know it. This isn't about being anti-sex. This is about understanding the difference between real intimacy and artificial stimulation. Real intimacy builds you. Porn breaks you. Real connection is risky, raw, and requires you to show up with all your flaws. Porn is easy, fake, and expects nothing from you. That's why it's so dangerous. It offers the illusion of satisfaction without any of the effort. But that illusion costs you everything that matters. Because in this life, anything worth having requires work. Depth, presence, porn gives you none of that. It takes and leaves you more hollow every time. Ask yourself, how many opportunities have you let pass because you didn't feel confident enough? How many times have you sat in silence when you should have spoken up? How many goals have you postponed, not because you lacked time, but because your mind was too fogged up from numbing out? That's the cost. It's not just what porn does in the moment. It's the compounding effect of years of escapism. Death by 1,000 clicks. Now let's talk about what happens when you remove it. Really remove it. Not for a weekend, not for a detox, but as a permanent shift in how you operate. You start to wake up with energy. You stop second guessing yourself. Your eyes stop darting around and start locking in. You listen better. You speak with more authority. You stop looking for cheap dopamine and start craving real results. Your whole vibe changes. Women feel it. Men respect it. You feel it. And it's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming present. You become someone who can hold eye contact, who can sit with discomfort, who doesn't flinch when life punches them in the gut. That's what freedom looks like. It's not just about avoiding porn. It's about becoming unshakable. Because if you can master this, if you can control the urge to escape, you can master anything. You think this doesn't affect your career, think again. Porn kills productivity, it weakens decision-making, it makes you indecisive, lethargic, easily overwhelmed. You sit down to work, but your focus is gone. You read the same sentence 3 times, you jump from task to task, you procrastinate. Why? Because you've trained your brain to expect stimulation every few minutes. So the hard, deep, focused work, the kind that actually changes your life, feels impossible. That's not laziness, that's addiction. Porn isn't just destroying your relationships and your confidence, it's draining your potential at the source, your life force, that primal drive, that internal engine that built empires, crossed oceans, launched revolutions. That's what porn hijacks. It trades your power for pleasure, your legacy for lust, your leadership for lethargy. And listen, I get it. You're tired, you're stressed, you feel alone. You want something to make it all go away? That's how most men get hooked in the first place. But let me tell you this, no amount of porn will ever fix your loneliness. No amount of stimulation will ever fill that hole. You don't escape emptiness by feeding it. You face it, you build through it, you create something out of it. That's what men do. We don't retreat, we rise. There is a version of you on the other side of this habit, a sharper, more dangerous, more grounded version. A man who walks into a room and owns it. A man who doesn't chase validation because he embodies value. A man who doesn't flinch when temptation calls because he's too focused on his mission. You want confidence? Kill the behaviors that are stealing it. You want focus? Cut the distractions at the root. You want fire? Stop pouring cold water on your soul. And don't fall for the lie that says this is just part of modern life, that everyone does it, that it's no big deal. That's loser talk. That's what average men tell themselves while their lives slip through their fingers. You weren't born to be average. You weren't born to cope. You were born to conquer. That's why it burns so much when you settle. That's why it stings when you sell out your potential for a quick fix. Because your soul knows better. And the longer you ignore that voice, the louder the pain gets. You've got to flip the script. Make this personal, make it sacred. Every day you say no to porn, you're saying yes to your mission, yes to your future family, yes to your legacy, yes to the man you promised yourself you'd become. That discipline bleeds into everything. You eat better, you train harder, you speak bolder, you don't tolerate weak energy, because you're no longer feeding yours into weak behaviors. You want to build a business? Quit porn. You want to have a powerful relationship? Quit porn. You want to walk into the gym and feel like a warrior again? Quit porn. You want to walk past a mirror and respect the man looking back at you? Quit porn. The path is brutally simple. Not easy, but simple. Remove what's weakening you, replace it with what strengthens you, repeat until you're unstoppable. And don't get it twisted, this is not about guilt. This is about greatness. This is about choosing power over pleasure, purpose over passivity, ownership over excuses. And it's not a one-time choice. It's daily, hourly, sometimes minute by minute. But every time you choose right, you harden your discipline. You sharpen your edge. You raise your standard until one day that old version of you, the weak, addicted, ashamed version, is a memory, a ghost. And the man standing in his place is one you never thought you could be. This is about reclaiming your mind, reclaiming your body, reclaiming your soul. The battle is real, the war is daily, but the victory, that's forever. And it starts the moment you decide enough is enough. That the man you could be is worth fighting for. That your mission matters more than your urges. That your life is too valuable to waste on pixels and illusions. Make the decision, step up, burn the boats, go all in, because if you don't fight for your future, no one will. You don't beat this thing with willpower alone. You beat it by building a life so full of purpose, intensity, challenge, and direction that the idea of wasting time numbing out becomes sickening. You stop negotiating with your lower self. You stop explaining your behavior. You stop saying, I'm trying, and you start deciding. That's the shift. Weak men try, strong men decide. They cut off any other option. They make non-negotiables out of things that used to be maybes. Porn goes from something you should quit to something you don't touch, period. There's no moderation. There's no just once in a while. That's like saying, I only poison myself on weekends. No, this isn't about balance. It's about standards. And the standard has to be absolute, because if you leave the door cracked, the addiction walks right back in. You give it 1 inch, it takes your whole soul. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've seen it happen. You've lived that cycle, and it's exhausting. You're tired of deleting it just to reinstall it again. Tired of making promises you keep breaking. Tired of the guilt that follows the high. Tired of staring at yourself in the mirror, wondering where your edge went. The strength, the discipline, the you that used to dream bigger. That version of you is still in there, under the layers of numbness and compromise, but you've got to dig. You've got to fight. You've got to get uncomfortable every single day until you remember what it feels like to win again. And winning doesn't mean being perfect. It means not quitting. It means showing up every day like your future depends on it, because it does. It means treating your energy like a sacred currency, because it is. Every ounce of energy you spend scrolling, clicking, and zoning out could have been poured into your business, your body, your relationships, your life. But what if that one decision is the momentum killer that derails the next 5 days of your life? What if it's the crack in the dam that floods everything you're trying to build? Discipline is the gateway drug to freedom. You want peace? Master your habits. You want confidence? Master your impulses. You want to feel alive again? Starve the weakness and feed the fire. Every man has that fire, but for most it's buried, smothered, forgotten. Not because it died, but because they stopped protecting it. You have to protect it, like your life depends on it, because it does. Porn is engineered to keep you docile. And it's not an accident. There are billion-dollar industries built around keeping men distracted, weak, isolated, and addicted. They don't want you focused. They don't want you dangerous. They want you pacified. Because focused men build businesses. Focused men lead families. Focused men become threats to the system. Weak men binge content and complain. Strong men create change. And here's the part nobody wants to admit. When you break free, the world feels different, it sounds different, your senses sharpen. You walk down the street and people feel your presence. You're no longer the guy with sunken eyes and restless energy. You become the guy with weight behind his words, with vision, with clarity, and you can't fake that. It's not about wearing a suit or posting motivational quotes. It's about living aligned, walking with integrity, looking yourself in the eye and knowing you're not hiding anymore. That's what real masculinity is. Not bravado, not domination, but presence, power, purpose, the kind of energy that walks into a room and shifts the atmosphere. Not because you're loud, but because you're anchored. And that's what porn steals from you. It unanchors you. It makes you float through life, never fully grounded, never fully present. You can't lead others if you can't lead yourself, and self-leadership starts with brutal honesty. Ask yourself, what are you afraid of? What are you avoiding by staying in that cycle? Because porn is never the root. It's the symptom of fear, of shame, of pain. It's a distraction from the hard work of healing and becoming. And that's why quitting is just the first step. The next step is stepping into your pain, not away from it. Sitting in the discomfort, asking the hard questions, doing the internal work that makes you whole. Because the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection. Connection to your values, to your vision, to your tribe, to yourself. You don't kill this habit with hacks. You kill it by rebuilding your identity. You become the kind of man who doesn't need it because your life is too meaningful, too full, too real to escape from. And that's the key. You don't just remove porn, you replace it with purpose, with discipline, with something so compelling that the idea of zoning out to fake pleasure feels like a betrayal of everything you stand for. And when you make that shift, everything changes, not just how you feel, but how you live. You stop chasing, you start attracting, you stop reacting, you start leading. Your relationships deepen, your vision sharpens, your work becomes more powerful. Why? Because you're no longer fractured, you're no longer divided, you're no longer at war with yourself. There's a power that comes when your habits align with your values, when your actions reflect the man you say you want to be. That's when confidence becomes real, not performative, not borrowed from someone else's YouTube channel or Instagram reel, but yours, earned, lived, owned. And no amount of porn can give you that. If you're still caught in the loop, hear this. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're just out of alignment. You've been giving your power to something that never deserved it. And the good news, you can take it back. Right now, with one decision, and then another, and another, until the momentum is yours again. You don't have to wait to become that man. You just have to start acting like him, start walking like him, start speaking like him. Every time you do, you reinforce the shift. You rewrite the story. You remind your brain and your body who's in charge. Because the truth is, porn doesn't destroy men instantly. It destroys them slowly, quietly, privately. But freedom comes just as steadily, every clean day, every choice made in alignment, every moment of presence, every breath taken with full awareness and no shame. That's what brings the fire back. That's what sharpens the blade. This is about war, and the battlefield is between your ears. Every thought, every urge, every excuse, that's where the fight is. But you don't need to be perfect to win. You just need to refuse to quit. Refuse to go back. Refuse to live as half a man when you were made to walk as a whole one. You'll know you've changed, not when the urges disappear, but when they no longer own you. When you feel the pull and choose power. When you feel the itch. And yeah, it takes time, it takes work, but that's the point. Anything that lasts takes work. Anything real requires effort. And when you build this strength, you don't just change your life, you change your family, your community, the next generation, because you become the example, the living proof that you can break the chains and rise. Not by talking about it, not by thinking about it, by doing it. Right now, the choice is yours. Continue down a path that drains your power and steals your potential, or rise up and reclaim the man you were born to be. This is not a battle for the faint-hearted, but every step toward freedom is a step toward your true self. Stronger, sharper, more alive. You hold the keys to your mind, your body, and your destiny. The moment you decide to take back control, to live with purpose instead of escape, you ignite a fire that no temptation can extinguish. Own that decision, own your life, because when you do, you don't just overcome porn, you become unstoppable.